What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for MLB Tuesday, June 21st. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's MLB slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, we have a 13-game slate tonight, so let's take a look at the pitcher position. So I like Nestor Cortes. He's pitching here against a low salary batting team, the Tampa Bay Rays. Nestor Cortes, although he does pitch his worst ball versus righty batters, still only giving up a .661 OPS versus righties. He's facing 5 righties here tonight. Now, he's facing 2 lefties and 2 switch hitters, and he's only giving up a .316 OPS versus switch hitters. So, not the greatest splits here for Nestor Cortes, but what I like about this pick is that the Rays have only hit 6 of his last 49 pitches. That's a 122 batting average and a pretty decent sample size. So Nestor Cortes is $10,500 FanDuel salary. He's 100 less on DraftKings. He's averaging 37 fantasy points per game on the season, and he has an ERA of 1.94. Record is 6-2. Pitching an average of 92 pitches per game. So I like Nestor Cortes here versus the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, a lower salary pitcher who I think is pretty interesting here on the slate is Joe Ryan. And he's pitching against the Cleveland Guardians. Joe Ryan, he's only giving up a .461 OPS versus lefties, a .548 OPS versus righties, facing 3 lefties and 5 righties, and the Guardians have only hit 6 of his last 34 pitches. That's a 176 batting average. He's $8,800 FanDuel salary, same price on DraftKings, averaging 31 fantasy points per game on the season. He has an ERA of 2.81, record is 5-3, pitching an average of 84 pitches per game. So I like Joe Ryan here versus the Cleveland Guardians. Now I also like Sean Manaea. He is here pitching versus the low salary batting team, the Arizona Diamondbacks. And Sean Manaea only giving up a .589 OPS versus lefties and a .577 OPS versus switch hitters, facing 4 lefties, 2 switch hitters. And what I like about this pick, now this is a small sample size, but it's a great start. The Diamondbacks have only hit 1 of his last 19 pitches. It's a .053 batting average. Now I'd like to see a little bit more of a sample size, but it is a fantastic start here versus the Diamondbacks, so we might have something going here versus that team. He's $9,900 FanDuel salary, 900 less on DraftKings. So at only 9,000 DraftKings salary, that puts him at 200 more than Joe Ryan. So on DraftKings, I think Sean Manaea is a pretty good pick here. And he's averaging 34 fantasy points per game on the season. He has an ERA of 3.95. Record is 3-3. Pitching an average of 93 pitches per game. And Vegas thinks this is going to be a low-scoring game. 7 runs scored in this game. That's their over-under. So I like Sean Manaea, especially on DraftKings, here versus the Arizona Diamondbacks. Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching. If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal, all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won. And then we'll send you $25 PayPal. So it's that easy. And we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you. Okay, let's take a look at the catcher first base position. Here's a stud pick for you. I like Paul Goldschmidt here versus a low salary pitcher, Chichi Gonzalez. Paul Goldschmidt, although batting versus righties is not his strong hand, he is still batting a .887 OPS versus righty pitchers. But Chichi Gonzalez does pitch his worst ball versus righty batters, 32% worse than his other pitches, giving up a 1.097 OPS versus righties. Now I like this pick because Paul Goldschmidt is 4 for 11. That's a 364 batting average and a 1.053 OPS versus Gonzalez. One of those 4 hits is for a home run. He's $4,200 FanDuel salary, $1,200 more on DraftKings, averaging 14 fantasy points per game on the season, scored fantasy points in 4 out of his last 5 games, has a batting average of .339. So I like Paul Goldschmidt here versus Chichi Gonzalez. Okay, here's a value play. Take a look at MJ Melendez. He's got a 43% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Reed Detmers. MJ Melendez is batting 44% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a 1.172 OPS versus lefties. Reed Detmers giving up a .763 OPS versus lefties. There's no at-bats versus Detmers yet, but MJ Melendez is only $2,700 FanDuel salary. He's $1,200 more on DraftKings, averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored fantasy points in all 5 of his last games. He has a batting average of .248. So I like MJ Melendez here versus Reed Detmers. Okay, let's take a look at the second base position. I like Jose Altuve, and he's batting against a low salary pitcher, Trevor Williams. Jose Altuve bats a little bit better versus righty pitchers, batting a .855 OPS versus righties. Trevor Williams pitching his worst ball versus righty batters, giving up a .771 OPS versus righties. And Jose Altuve is 1 for 3 here versus Williams. That one hit was a double. He's $3,400 FanDuel salary, $2,200 more on DraftKings. So I love that FanDuel price, averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored fantasy points in all 5 of his last games. He has a batting average of .274. So I like Jose Altuve here versus Trevor Williams. Now I also like Ezekiel Duran with a 17% batting advantage over Kyle Gibson. Ezekiel Duran batting 21% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .845 OPS versus righties. Kyle Gibson giving up a .671 OPS versus righties. There's no at-bats versus Gibson yet. And Ezekiel Duran, only $3,000 FanDuel salary, $300 less on DraftKings, averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season, scored fantasy points in all 5 of his last games. He has a batting average of .291. So I like Ezekiel Duran here versus Kyle Gibson. Okay, let's take a look at the third base position. Here's a value play. Although he is facing a pretty good pitcher here, I like Jake Burger with a 24% batting advantage over Kevin Gausman. Jake Burger batting 8% better versus righty pitchers. He's batting a .824 OPS versus righties. Kevin Gausman pitching 16% worse to righties as he does lefties, giving up a .675 OPS versus righties. Now, Jake Burger is 0 for 3 versus Gausman, But I like this pick because he's only $2,600 FanDuel salary, and he's only $600 more on DraftKings. He's averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season. He has a batting average of .259, so I think he makes a pretty decent value play here. So I like Jake Berger here versus Kevin Gausman. Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. Okay, let's take a look at the shortstop position. I like Xander Bogaerts with a 27% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Bo Brisk. Xander Bogaerts batting a .879 OPS versus righties. Bo Brisk pitching his worst ball versus righty batters, 32% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .855 OPS versus righties. Now there's no at-bats versus Brisk yet. Xander Bogaerts is $3,600 FanDuel salary, $1,000 more on DraftKings, averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored fantasy points in 4 out of his last 5 games. He has a batting average of .332, so I like Xander Bogaerts here versus Bo Brisk. I also like J.P. Crawford with a 42% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, James Caprillion. J.P. Crawford, he's batting 17% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .775 OPS versus righties. James Caprillion, he's pitching 25% worse to lefties as he does righties, giving up a .891 OPS versus lefties. And J.P. Crawford is 3 for 10 here versus Caprillion. All 3 of those hits were singles. And he's $3,300 FanDuel salary, $600 more on DraftKings, averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season. He has a batting average of .283. So I like J.P. Crawford here versus James Caprillion. Okay, moving on to the outfield position. As a home run hitter, you got Mike Trout versus a low salary pitcher, Jonathan Heasley. So Mike Trout is batting 14% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .104 OPS versus righties. Now, Jonathan Heasley is giving up a .728 OPS versus righties. There's no at-bats versus Heasley yet. Mike Trout is $4,300 FanDuel salary, $1,200 more on DraftKings, averaging 14 fantasy points per game on the season, scored fantasy points in all 5 of his last games, and he has a batting average of .290. So I like Mike Trout here versus Jonathan Heasley. Now, Starling Marte also in a pretty good spot here. Ian Happ, he's in a good spot. And who else is this? Shohei Ohtani, also in a good spot. So let me go over Ian Happ and Shohei Ohtani. So Ian Happ, he's got a 50% batting advantage here over Ronzi Contreras. Ian Happ batting a .798 OPS versus righties. Ronzi Contreras pitching his worst ball versus switch hitters, giving up a 1.190 OPS versus switch hitters. Now, Ian Happ is 0 for 1 versus Contreras, only $3,200 FanDuel salary, $200 more on DraftKings, averaging 10 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored fantasy points in all 5 of his last games. He has a batting average of .290, so I like Ian Happ here versus Ronzi Contreras. And the other guy is Shohei Ohtani. He's got a 62% batting advantage over that low salary pitcher, Jonathan Heasley. Shohei Ohtani batting 11% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .896 OPS versus righties. Jonathan Heasley pitching his worst ball by far to lefty batters, 51% worse than his other pitches, giving up a 1.475 OPS versus lefties. No at-bats versus Heasley yet. Shohei Ohtani only $3,500 FanDuel salary. He is $2,100 more on DraftKings, so I absolutely love that FanDuel price. Averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season. He has a batting average of .252, so I like Shohei Ohtani here versus Jonathan Heasley. If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.